Former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina rocketing up to second place with 15 points, but that's still 9 points behind Donald Trump. Dr. Ben Carson is third with 14%, and GOP frontrunner Donald Trump joins us. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Greta.
So the news that Governor Scott Walker is suspending his campaign, your thoughts tonight, sir?
Well, I feel badly for him. He's a nice guy. I got to know him a little bit during, as we say, the trail, going out on the trail, and I think he's a terrific guy and a nice guy, and I think it's been tough for him. He started off high, and his poll numbers went, but he'll do fine, and he's a good governor, and he's got plenty to govern.
Well, do you intend to ask him for his endorsement?
I don't think so. I think he knows the different players. He's probably got a deal. You don't forget, I'm very much of an outsider, and I think it's probably a little bit tough for him to do. And actually, the poll that you just gave is, probably the worst of my polls. I'm at 24%. Zogby just came out at 32 or 33, and many of them are. I see I'm averaging 33%. So I'm really doing well with the polls, and I love it. I'm having a good time. We're going to make America great again. We're going to fix all of the problems that have been caused by a lot of incompetent politicians.
Well, the CNN poll is sort of the one that we relied on because what the problem with the Zogby poll, although you're winning in both of them, I give that to you as well, is that the Zogby is an online poll. So that's why we lead more towards the CNN poll, which you are indeed winning as well.
Well, NBC just came out with one at 29% and even above that. So, there's plenty of polls, that's for sure. I don't know why these people hire pollsters when you have polls coming out every 15 minutes, but the polls have been terrific.
All right. Let me turn now to the latest is the Muslim issue, and that's certainly generating some controversy. I don't know if you know, but Dr. Ben Carson this weekend said that he would not support a Muslim for president. What's your thought about this controversy?
Well, I have a lot of respect for Ben Carson, and I like him a lot, and we've had a very good relationship. I think that basically if somebody can get elected, they're going to be vetted, and if somebody can get elected, that's what it's all about. It's an electoral process, and I would tend to go along with that.
What do you mean, tend to go along with what? Along with
election.
Dr.
If you win an election, in this country, if you win an election. But I would say this, Ben was saying there are difficulties, and I think everybody knows what those difficulties are, and people want to be politically correct, but there have been difficulties, and a lot of people agree with Ben. I do think that Ben would also agree, though, if properly vetted, the proper people, properly vetted, going through an election, I think that anybody that is able to win an election will be absolutely fine.
Do I take from that if properly vetted, that you wouldn't have a problem voting with someone who is Muslim, provided the person agreed with you politically?
Well, they'd have to go through the long, hard process. It's a long, tough road, Greta, I can tell you, and it really is very revealing, and I would have no problem with it now.
Why is this such an issue?
Well, you look at what's happening. I mean, the world has got some terrible terrorism problems, and it seems to be mostly in that area. And I think that a lot of people see it, and they see what's happening, and they turn on their television every night, and they see all of the tremendous damage and destruction that's being caused. And they hear about ISIS, and they figure ISIS is not exactly located in the middle of Sweden. I said the other day to somebody, I don't notice too many Swedish people going back after the bombing of the World Trade Center. So it's a problem. It's a big problem, and it's a problem that's going to have to be solved, and it has to be solved quickly.
Is there, in your mind, a difference between moderate Muslims and radical extremists, or do you see no difference?
No, of course there's a difference, and we're not talking about all. I know some people, some Muslims who are friends of mine who are great people, fantastic people, and they are concerned with radicalism, very, very concerned with radicalism, as much as you are, as much as I am. But you do have a problem with the radical Muslims and the whole thing that's going on around the world. And, a lot of people don't want to hear about it. They think it's not politically correct to say whatever you want to say about it, but the problem exists, and we have to talk about it.
You and I haven't spoken since your town hall in New Hampshire, in which someone asked you a question and said that President Obama was Muslim and non-American. I think is essentially what he said. Why didn't you say something?
Well, number one, I don't like talking about somebody's faith. I think it's inappropriate for me to. Number two, somebody was asking a question and actually making a statement, and it's not my job to, frankly, defend the president. The president is capable of defending himself. And I sort of said to myself, almost there thinking, I said, should I speak up? And the fact is, this is the first time in my life I didn't say anything and it was a big story. You know, usually I have to say something. This was a case, in fact, people sort of smile about it. I didn't say anything, and it became this massive story and probably led to, you know, Ben's story, because I have a very good relationship with Ben, and Ben's going through a lot with this whole situation. But this gentleman got up, and he made some pretty strong statements, and I think that President Obama will be able to defend himself if he wants to. I know one thing, he's not going to defend me. If somebody says something about me, Greta, he's not defending me. That I know for sure.
Actually, I'll give you that one, Don. I think that's probably. I do probably think that is true. I don't think people defend each other much in politics. All right. You also were quoted today, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Carly Fiorina was robotic. Now, I mean, I can understand you saying that you disagree with her business or disagree on some policy, but you took a swipe at her saying she's robotic. What's up with that? Well,
a few things. Number one, I've heard her speak numerous times, and she uses many of the same lines, and many of them I can quote exactly word for word, and it comes out like a robot. And frankly, if you hear her for periods of time, you get a big, fat, beautiful headache. And I've seen this, and I've watched it. And much more importantly, if you look at Hewlett-Packard, and if you look at Lucent, which nobody even talks about, but Lucent might have been a bigger disaster than HP, she was a disaster at running these companies. She was a total and complete disaster. The head of the Yale Business School came out with just a report saying one of the worst chief executive officers ever. Forbes has had articles that talking about what a terrible job she did. I mean, she was an absolute disaster. Now, she ran then after failing at HP and failing badly at Lucent. At both of them, she failed badly. The stock went down the tubes, and the company went down the tubes. Look, HP just let go of 25,000 people last week, which they say is still the remnant of Carly. So all of the thousands and thousands of people that have been let go. Then she goes out and she runs for the United States Senate against Barbara Boxer, who she criticized actually in a lot of different ways, but she lost in a landslide. She got killed in that election. So now she's running for president. So I don't quite get it, but, you know, I don't always get everything.
All right. Well, so this is what I don't get. In listening to everything you said, you know, you have all these arguments against her on, you know, business arguments. What I don't understand is the robotic comment. Is that, you know, every once in a while down you slip and you get personal and you take a swipe, and if you've got all this other ammunition. You don't think calling someone robotic?
No, I don't think. No, I don't think that. No, she stands and the words come out, and a lot of times, and in fact, I read this just the other day. In fact, I used the word robotic in a story. The words come out, and they're the exact same words that she used the day before and the day before. It's very interesting, but if you watch and if you see, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. No, I find it to be very robotic. And I think a bigger problem, frankly, is her horrible tenure at various companies that, frankly, were destroyed. We don't have to have the United States destroyed from an economic standpoint. We have a lot of problems in this country. The last thing we need is the person that ran HP and Lucent to be running the United States.
All right, Russian military buildup in Syria. That's something that is disturbing. What would you do about that?
Well, you know, I tell people all the time that if I'm leading in all the polls, and frankly, I don't want people to know. I want to have I want to have the ability to do what I want to do without everybody knowing exactly what I want to do. So I don't want to have Putin and all of these other people hearing what I am going to do.
Yeah, but you're just telling us then to guess. I mean, you really need to sort of make your case as to what, you know, if this is an important issue. And, you know, we're looking for solutions, and we're looking for strong leaders to solve these very important issues. You're telling us, like, well, you know, just vote for me. I mean, like, you know, American people really want to, you know, get some idea of what you think you would do to fix this problem.
Greta, you have to be in a position where people have to be able to guess. They can't have you be so consistent that they know every single move you're going to make. For one thing, I would probably, because you can't always guarantee it, but I would get along with Putin. I would most likely, which the president right now doesn't. But as far as Syria is concerned, if Putin goes in there and if he's able to knock out ISIS, which he has a big reason to do it because he doesn't want them coming into Russia, frankly, and other places. But if he goes in and knocks out ISIS, To me, that's not the worst thing I've ever heard of. And I've told that to people, and they love what I had to say. We're going in, we're fighting ISIS on behalf of ourselves, and who are we helping? We're helping Assad. Assad must think we are the dumbest people on earth because ISIS wants to fight Assad, but they can't get through us because they're fighting us. If Russia wants to go in and do the job on ISIS, it would be something that I would not be extremely concerned about. That I can tell you, Greta. At the same time, I don't want people to know all my thoughts because I do have a good chance. And if I'm there, I don't want people to go back to your show and say, well, this is what he's going to do. I don't want them to be able to figure me out. You know, if General Douglas MacArthur and if General Patton ever heard, and some of the great generals ever heard all of this talk, this political talk, they would be spinning in their grave. You want to go in, do what you have to do without telling the world about it.
All right, the question I asked Governor Chris Christie the other day, if you had 15 minutes with the Pope, who's visiting the United States this week, what would you, if just the two of you, what would you talk about? What would you ask him?
Well, I think I talked to him about a lot of things, mostly religion, but I would ask his views on global warming because, believe it or not, he seems to be getting extremely political, and he seems to feel strongly about the whole global warming situation, which I disagree with him on, and I would actually talk to him about that to see if he's serious about it.
And anything else?
Well, I talk about religion. I would talk about a lot of things. I actually like him. I'm not sure that he's getting, I think he's getting a little bit political with some of his views and some of his statements and, you know, having to do with global warming and other things, but that's certainly his prerogative. But I would certainly like to talk to him. I think he's a terrific guy. I think he's brought a spirit back to the church that it was missing, and I think he's going to do a great job, and it's wonderful to have him here.
Donald, nice to talk to you. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Greta.